Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, I don't want to bury the lead too much here, folks, because we got a very exciting pick to talk about. I got good vibes, man. I got good vibes. I'm sure there might be a couple grumbly people out there, but it just feels right. You know what I mean? But before I get into that again, I don't want to bury it too much. We got to talk about it. But first of all, appreciate everybody that kind of pushed me toward going to the draft. We did get to go. It was a good time. It really was. It was just all the cheesy stuff that people talk about all the time about, like, man, just being here and seeing all the Packer fans. It was such a cool environment. I mean, the weather was perfect. A lot of Packer fans. I mean, I know that kind of goes without saying, but I kind of thought it would be a little bit more of a mix. But the ratio was wild. I mean, it felt like 99% Packer fans. It wasn't quite, probably 90, 95. Toward the end, I think more people started showing up. But took the whole family. Family had a great time. Kids were doing real well. Packers, I think, put on a really fun event. I'd offer them a couple notes, on how to improve if we're coming back next year, but it's not. So, no, it was cool. Got to go into basically just walk out, sit in the stands, and there's Lambeau Field. We were right up in front. Free reign to just do whatever you want. Got a bunch of pictures and everything. Big shout out to Clayton and his whole crew. Packers Total Access, those guys over there, very, very accommodating to my family. Gave me a place to park. Covered the cost of our first Uber, which was extremely generous, and just in general, allowing us to come in, not just use the bathrooms, which they did, but hanging out and just being super cool. My kids didn't want to leave. They loved everybody there, and we ate all their snacks. Saw JJ there. He was... Just as we were walking out on the field, dude was kicking a field goal, so we got a chance to meet him. And Packer super fan Mike Hebring, got a chance to meet him finally. Didn't see any. So it was ridiculous. Like Clayton and those guys every second, like, oh, we ran into caught up with them as Mike Hebring was coming over, and they're like, oh, did you see so and so over there? I was like, no, I didn't. I don't see anyone. I don't know what you're talking about. Saw one dude that was like pretty big dude, had his hair was done real well. He was wearing a suit, and I was like, "Is this guy football? Should I know this guy? I don't know." That's the other problem. I don't even if I saw somebody, I wouldn't recognize him. But anyways, point is, it was a fun time. It was really hard to leave. My son was not happy at my decision, especially once we got up to the stage, because when we walked up there, I mean, we got right up to the front, at least as far as the front as you can go without going inside of the thing, but it wasn't that far away. But it's like, we're not standing here for 4 hours. So got out of there, pretty decent time, got back a little bit late, but plenty of time for the Packers pick and more. So if you're kind of on the fence, I would encourage you to go. It's not as crazy as I thought. It's really not. In fact, when we were leaving, which was like peak, like it was super crowded, houses right next to the stadium are holding up signs saying $60 parking. I'm hearing stories of somebody weeks out pre-buying something 3 blocks away for $150 parking, which sounds like they just maybe got ripped off. But it wasn't like I'm expecting all the businesses to be, there's open. The parking lots are half empty. Like it wasn't, we took the Uber and we just drove straight in. It wasn't like bumper to bumper traffic. Kind of like a normal semi-busy kind of day. It wasn't that big of a deal. So if you're on the fence, I would encourage you to take a drive up and go experience a little bit. If you're going to do the 40-yard dash, don't be an old person like me that actually hasn't run in a very long time and your legs forget how to do it and you fall down in front of everybody, because that might have, but might not have happened to me. Well, my son, Mr. Cullen, was wearing a shirt that I made custom for him. I'm wearing a shirt that says Packernet, what does it say? Scouting Department. And Cullen is wearing a shirt that says Scout Cullen. And Scout Cullen, as you know, he came on here, and we may go revisit that. He told us his favorite receiver, and in fact his favorite player in this draft, and that was Matthew Golden. We were absolutely panicked all the way through the draft. When Teteroa McMillan went early in the draft, I thought the dream is dead, Cullen. I mean, it's not like he was my favorite guy, although I like him, as I've expressed. I felt bad for him because I'm like, the dream is dead. McMillan went really early, and Dallas is almost assuredly going to take him. Like, just have to take him. Done. And they didn't. And a lot of people fell. A lot of guys were falling, and I wasn't even sure. The whole way through, I don't know who I want. I really didn't know who I wanted. Will Johnson fell, and I'm like, man, I think it's going to be Will Johnson, as we were getting closer. And everybody started talking about the injuries and how scary that is. And I started thinking to myself, you know what, that can't be the pick. I mean, it could be, absolutely could be the pick. But, just going into this with the whole Jair thing and the injury stuff, I don't feel like they're going to go that route. And then Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall, was falling. And I thought, that's got to be the one. It just kind of feels right, all this stuff. And it's like, you got the smaller school thing. You got the pretty serious scandals that are ongoing. I just don't know. And I thought about it, and it just clicked in my head probably, 2 minutes before the pick was announced, because they took it pretty well down the wire. I thought, you know what? Golden's the guy. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, they're going to do something crazy. They're going to take the freaking tackle, or they're going to do something ridiculous, because that's what the Packers do. And I say ridiculous, but it's, this is just what happens. They're not taking a wide receiver. They're going to get, maybe Maxwell Hairston, but even that's too predictable at this point. Like, it can't happen. But at the front of my brain, I'm thinking that is the pick. The Packers need a receiver. They've been wanting a receiver. He has that wide receiver one potential, but he also has the speed. He's that speed guy that can be your Christian Watson. And by the way, I don't think that this is a replacement for Christian Watson. You could certainly make that case. He's kind of a Z type of receiver, which is what Watson is. But we can't say that Miami didn't do the same thing with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and just thrive in that environment, that the Packers would be upset about having two speed guys. And, obviously when one goes down, you still have one, and not having to worry about that. And we can have that conversation about Watson and is he getting another contract, all that stuff, which I think he is. But if you're on the fence about that, I just want you to think for 1 second, when Christian Watson comes back, you'll have Golden on one side, Watson on the other. Are you telling me the Packers are looking at that going, nah, not really. I don't really feel that. I don't know, man. I don't know. Now, the draft isn't over. Certainly could go and get another wide receiver at some point, and if he's kind of more of an X receiver, then you're going, okay, well, that guy could fit over there, and then, Matthew Golden goes over there, and seems like a pretty good group. And obviously, we don't know anything, and the Packers don't know anything. It's take the best player, and then we'll kind of let it sort itself out over time is kind of the way that it goes. But again, it just felt right. It just clicked. It's like it's just one of those things where you sit back and think for a second. You're like, you're overthinking this. He's the guy. He's the guy the Packers want. He is that blazing fast speed guy that Goot wants. It's the receiver that they want. It can be the number one. Taking a receiver in Green Bay, you know what I mean? And we were sitting there, and me and Cullen are sitting on the couch, and we start going, Matthew Golden. And we did that for quite a long time, waiting for this, because we left the computer. We're like, we don't want spoilers. We were doing the sitting on Twitter, just getting the early picks. When the Packers were on the clock, once we saw the pick is in, we bolted out of here. And so we're going through that, and Mark Murphy comes out, and I appreciate Mark Murphy, and I'm glad he said all that stuff. But we're also having a heart attack waiting for this pick to come out, and dude just rambles for quite a while, and it's like, okay, that was great, Mark. Love you, dog. Take your moment, really breathe it in. I want you to enjoy this, but also I think it's time to announce a pick. And then he says something else like, bro, listen to me. But, and I'll play the clip, but when he said, for the first time, I died. Like I was just like, oh, and I looked at, because Cullen doesn't know the history. He doesn't know that whole story about whatever, but I knew immediately this is a wide receiver. And I thought, it could be somebody else, but there's not a ton of other options. realistic options. I mean, it could have been my guy, which I would have been Luther Burden. I would have been okay with. But it in that moment, it was like, holy crap. And I looked at him, I said, it's a wide receiver. And sure enough, he announces the pick, and he and I just freak out, dude. Me and Colin start jumping. It reminded me of the Christian Watson pick. I was downstairs, and he was obsessed with Watson. And I heard the pick early, and I bolted upstairs, and I'm like, Colin, get ready. And he, we did the whole big celebration thing. So, Scout Cullen, man, if he likes a receiver, you better pay attention. It's funny because he doesn't know. I mean, he's not on social media. He doesn't know what's going on. He watches. How many receivers did he watch here? 20, 22 receivers. And sometimes, like, the 15th guy is his favorite or whatever. You never know. But, yeah, it happened to be Golden. I'm like, oh, it could be. Kind of lines up, whatever. And it was cool because when we were at the draft, the second time we went in the stadium, they're doing the red carpet event, which really is more there's nothing for you to do there. I think they wanted fans in there so they could have like the backdrop of fans if they even showed that. I don't know. But couldn't hear hardly anything or whatever, but you can kind of hear the announcements. They did Tedero and McMillan, and I screamed for them, like, let's go, T-Mac! And that was obviously a pipe dream that was never going to happen. And then a few announcements later, here comes Matthew Golden, and so the crowd went wild. The people that were in there started screaming. You could tell Packer fans wanted this guy, which makes it even cooler to know the broader Packer fan base was really into this. Colin got excited. I'm like, there's your boy right there. There's Golden. And we got to see him come out and walk the red carpet, kind of. Again, you couldn't see much. And then get home, and there it is, man. Matthew Golden, number 1 wide receiver. First-round receivers have been quite good. Doesn't mean that it has to be. It's a relatively weaker class. I get all that stuff. You could argue he's more of a second-round guy. Whatever. I don't know. But Golden is a pretty special guy. I want to dig a little bit more into it. So when I first watched Golden, let me just recap for those of you that are kind of confused where I stand on him. And I have to go back again because now it's like once you know who it is, you can really, like, I'm watching all his games. When I just did the first quick run through, I tell you what, I'm all over the place. Let's stop. Let's play the announcement of the pick before we get in, and then I think we'll take a break and we'll double back. So here is a very, very. This is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting caught up in all this, but it's a credit to Mark Murphy to create this environment. I'm not a big sentimental guy. Like I said, I don't buy jerseys. Even when I go to Lambeau, it's not that I don't enjoy it, but I don't always feel that feeling of like this is special. This is big. This is, especially because Mark Murphy's leaving. It just, and then when he was speaking, it sounded like he started crying, which I don't think he did, but I heard it and it was like, oh man, this is, I don't know. But let's just call it a very historic and special moment to hear this announcement. This is my favorite first round pick of the Packers. Not even necessarily because of the prospect, but just freaking ever, okay?
Okay, Green Bay, it's your time. To make this historic pick, please give it up for first team All-Pro, Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champion, and Packers President and CEO, Mark Murphy.
Thank you, Roger. How about this atmosphere? Isn't it unbelievable? Roger, thank you and the NFL for bringing the draft here to Green Bay for the best draft in the history of the NFL. Right here. On behalf of the Packers, Packer fans here in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and everywhere, because our fans are everywhere, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the NFL Draft at Lambeau Field. It is our honor and privilege to host this wonderful event in our community, particularly since we are the only community-owned team in the NFL. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are owners? Yes. We also have the best owners in the NFL. And we also want to celebrate the special connection we have with our fans that dates back to the early days of professional football. With the 23rd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers, for the first time since 2002, draft a wide receiver.
Listen to this crowd.
Oh, baby.
Matthew Golden, wide receiver of Texas.
And he's here. And he's here.
I'll tell you what, timing is everything. You wait till the draft is in Green Bay. You go get a man for the green and gold named Golden. You can't script this any better. Everybody in this entire crowd wanted a wide receiver, Rich, and they came through for him.
Listen to this crowd.
So I didn't see this broadcast necessarily, but how absolutely cool is it for Matthew Golden to receive that kind of a reception? You know, to have that, to be in the home stadium, to get the Go Pack Go chant, to hear the roar of the crowd, not the boos and the, oh man, that sucks or anything like that. It's got to be one of the more special, I mean, for a Packers pick. I mean, I think back to like HaHa Clinton Dix when he looked like he wanted to die when he got drafted by the Packers. To have Matthew Golden, and we'll go through some of the stuff that he said, to be excited. I mean, obviously he's excited. He's a first-round pick and all that stuff, but to want to be here and to be excited about it and to get that reception from Packers fans, to know how desperately they wanted you to be on their team, and to you know that you're about to get up. He's standing there. He's ready to come out, and to hear the roar of the crowd after they say his name. It makes me proud. I'm very proud of Packer fans. There was in the beginning, obviously booing the Bears. There was a moment where obviously they're booing them, and Roger Goodell talked about a historic Chicago Bear. His name is escaping me right now. I feel bad, but legendary Chicago Bear who had passed away, and the crowd went silent. There are places where that wouldn't have happened. I'm very proud that we have a place like Green Bay where they went silent, they stopped booing, and took that moment to allow him to speak positively about a legendary Chicago Bear and to offer that amount of respect. And as soon as he was done talking, they went right back to booing, as loud as you possibly could. I'm the people there were fantastic, very good crowd, great people, great atmosphere. I saw it the whole way up. I was. Our van that we drive, the seat is broken. It won't go back anymore. So my wife has to drive it, which works to my benefit because I was able to sit there and sit on Twitter and whatnot. And, I'm seeing, I was not, when the draft was initially announced in Green Bay, it was a bunch of grumbling. Obviously Vikings and Lions and Bears, who wants to go, stupid. That's understood. But then all the coastal elite scumbags are like, oh, there's nowhere to go. It's so stupid. It really was none of that. The only thing I saw was what Mike Greenberg or something, whatever his name is, big New York Jets, New York guy, whatever. I think he's a Jets fan, but he went to some pancake place, which we drove right past. It was pretty funny, but this little diner, and he wanted like an almond milk latte or something. I don't know what it was, but people got mad at him like, oh, you're making fun of that. I kind of feel like he was making fun of himself. I mean, I made fun of him because I'm like I can't think of an appropriate word, but it's kind of weird to order that anywhere. But aside from that, I mean, there was nothing. It was a whole bunch of like, this is such a beautiful environment, and this is such a historic place, and this is really cool, and everybody was really seeming to love it and appreciate it. People, Long, who was a Chicago Bear for a long time, not Howie Long, but his kid, I forget which one, but he was talking about how great it is that Green Bay is going to be able to have this. The Paul Farrington show, I've mentioned a couple times, they're Vikings guys, they came out, and there was a ton of talk about possibly converting to Packer fans and just how beautiful it was There's one comment about Packer fans might be the nicest people I've ever met. One of the guys, Ziggy, who I think is a little bit more of on the negative side, especially against the Packers, but they were going to go walk out on the field, and he had made some kind of a comment about like this is absolutely stunning. And if I end up walking out on this field, I think I'm going to cry, and like I'm going to be a Packer fan, and like I think I told him to shut up or whatever. But I mean, it's such a carrying on with this whole thing, but it really is such a cool thing, and I'm so glad that it was so well represented. The Packers did such a good job with it, and I think everything was perfect. I mean, to draft a wide receiver with your first pick, and for it to be a guy that I'm not going to say everybody was over the moon about Matthew Golden, but he was at least down the middle enough that I don't know if anybody's mad about it. You know, there might be sort of he's not my favorite. But nobody's like, so I didn't want him. A 4.29 wide receiver, who's crying about that? I mean, come on. But I just think that is the coolest thing. I'm watching Matthew Golden. That's why that clip probably carried on a little bit too long because I was watching it. But Matthew Golden coming out to just the roar of a crowd that is just so happy to have you on the team, I think is the coolest thing that we could do for somebody as a motivating factor for Matthew Golden, and I'm beyond excited for him to be a Packer. Why don't we take a break, and we'll come back and just keep doing it, man. You know what I mean? We'll be right back. Oh Lord, I'm starting to see some whining. The whining has already begun. Surprisingly, it's not by like just random fans. It's by the bigger media types who want to go in and get into the advanced analytics. Like, can you guys just do me a favor and shut the hell up for one day and let us enjoy the pick?
Yards per route run against man coverage.
My Lord. Well, I'll tell you what, Brian Gutekunst is about to come to the podium, so why don't we do that real quick? We'll catch it live so I don't have to come back and wait for it and find it later. We'll do that real quick.
What an electric atmosphere it was out there today. I mean, it was, obviously didn't have a whole lot, didn't really know what to expect. And
Amen,
as the day
brother.
kind of progressed, you just kind of felt it building
so
and
quiet.
building, and just what a great, cool moment for Green Bay, the Packers. Just really, really a cool scene out there, and it was a lot of fun watching it from the draft room. But I also wanted to talk about Mark. We kind of talked a little bit about it in the room, just about all the support and leadership that he's shown us over these years. I mean, we're just really, really fortunate. There's not a lot of franchises that operate like us, and to have the kind of leadership and support that he's given us. So, it was just a really cool moment all around. And again, got really excited to bring Matthew into the fold. I think he's going to do a lot of things for us. He's just obviously he's a very gifted athlete, gifted football player, but he's also just wired exactly how we want our guys in the locker room. And I think he's going to fit in really well. And with that, I'll take some questions.
I get that once you're on the clock, it's a football decision, right? But Mark mentioned it before announcing Matthew. It's been 23 years. We obviously ask you about it every single year, which I'm sure you'll miss. Yeah. Is there any, given the moment, given that it's here, given the drought, is there any even consideration of, wow, this is significant to finally take a receiver in the first round?
Well, I really said it in a different name, but Mark just announced what he announced, so it is what it is. No, I don't know. I didn't think about any of that until he got up there, and then you kind of saw, you saw the crowd. They're all Green Bay fans. You heard the chants and all that kind of stuff, and it was just really cool. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think anything like that. We were watching the board. We had a couple players we were discussing. There were trade opportunities, things like that. So you're going through all that and just trying to do what's right for the Packers. So none of that really came before me like that, but afterwards it did. It was just kind of like, wow, that's pretty neat, So.
Brian, he's 5'11", which maybe isn't your stereotypical outside receiver frame. Mm-hmm. Do you think he can play everywhere, and why do you think he can play outside?
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt. So, he's kind of above the Mendoza line for that outside, but not by much. Obviously, he has.
Oh, they messed it up here.
When you watch him, we thought arguably he had some of the best hands in the draft.
Nice.
Not only coming back to it and running through it, but when he tracked it over his shoulder and stuff too. So he's a strong athlete, So he's really versatile. He's going to do a lot of things, but we certainly felt that he could play outside, and that was important to us.
Brian, what did you like, or what stuck out to you when you sat down with him and he was here on the visit and any other times you talked to him?
Authentic and genuine. Like, this guy's been through some things now in his young life and come out the other side of it. And I think he's just very authentic and genuine. He knows who he is. He loves football, and I think he's going to be a great teammate around here. So just, again, those were a lot of the things that kind of, and we knew that before we sat down with him. I mean, that was what everybody said at Houston and Texas and everybody who's been around him. But it's certainly getting to know him that came through.
He told us he wants to be pushed. Is that what you mean when you say wired the way you want to be wired?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those things, but I just think, this kid wants to be great. He wants to win, so he's been chasing this thing. And like I said, I think he's had adversity in his life and he's come out the other side of it. And the odds were probably stacked against him a little bit. He's, no player is perfect. And I think he's one of those guys that is just going to really work hard at it to be the best he could be.
Do you see, or what do you see in him? Do you think he can play a lot and contribute a lot in 25?
I do. We've talked in here before. I mean, I think the world's changed a little bit. It always takes receivers a little bit of time to get going. It used to be kind of that end of year 2, middle of year 3 when they really, things slowed down for them and they could really produce. Certainly we've had a lot of history with that, where that happened. I think because of the high school football and the way they throw it around, 7-on-7s, and just some of the things that have changed on the lower levels, guys are coming in and making an impact quicker. And I certainly think Matthew has the opportunity to do that. Now we got some good players in that room, so he's not going to have to kind of carry the load that way. But I think he has a chance to contribute. Not only as a receiver, but I think he's got some special team return ability as well that could help us.
With that said, how much did you feel like this offense, obviously the injury to Christian, the way that the season ended last year, really needed to add an infusion of that type of speed and playmaking at that position?
Yeah, that's good. And I think I told you, I didn't really think we needed to at all. Certainly it's nice to, and we want to add as much talent and competition in that room as we can. I felt really good about our room prior, and if we would have gone a different direction, I would have had no problem doing that. He was, that we had a couple of guys on the board that we really, really liked. And, he just, like I said, I think he won us over, not only his play on the field, but just who he was.
You were at his pro day, right?
I was.
I heard it was really good. What did you see, and did something in that jump out to you?
Yeah, I mean, again, pro days are pro days that are scripted. They're not in pads and stuff, but he had a good day. He catches the ball extremely well. I think that's the thing that jumps out at you, not only on tape, but when you see him play live. But I think that the one thing about, as we scouted him, he's a third-year junior coming out. He's a young guy, and I think he has his best footballs ahead. He's still got a lot of room for growth. He's not at his ceiling, and I think when you went to the pro day, I think he had progressed from the season till there with some of his route running, some of the things he did. So, he had a good pro day again, but that's this is scripted, and that can be a little tough to put too much into.
Brian, how did you see his? You just mentioned progress, but how did you see his game progress when he made the transfer decision? When he went from Houston to then playing at Texas in the SEC.
Right. Yeah, and if you followed it, early on in the season, it was his production and maybe his reps and targets and things like that. It took a few games to get going, and then once they kind of realized what they had, then it just kind of took off, and he became a major part of what they were doing. So everyone speaks very, very highly of him there. That's obviously a very good program, and they train guys very well. So as does Houston. So I think he had 3 really good years, and obviously making that jump to Texas and playing in some of the games that he played in at the end of the year and producing like he did. I think certainly that helped him.
Along those lines, Brian, you talked about the challenges of scouting in the portal world, but does it help you in some regards that you got a guy who's been into school for 1 year, you got to see how he went from one system to another, how he can learn, because that's obviously what he's going to get thrown into here.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, he's been in 2 systems, right? And I think the one that he was at Texas was probably a little bit more closer to will resemble what we do, Not obviously, there's still going to be a big jump. But I think that was helpful to see him go from there to Texas, kind of step up a little bit in competition and still produce at a high level.
Why'd you bring him in for a visit?
I'm saying?
Why'd you bring him in for a visit?
Oh, God, man. a couple weeks ago.
Why?
Oh, why? Oh, I just think he's a young kid, 3-year guy that transferred, and it was just one of those things we just wanted to get to know him a little bit better. And we had a really good meeting with him at the combine and it felt really good. But we just kind of thought he was one of those players that might be staring us in the face like he was, and just wanted to get a little more comfortable with him.
Brian, there was some stuff out there that the Eagles were trying to trade up to 23. How close were you to trading back, and was there any consideration to not do it because of who was trying to trade up?
That last question, no. I don't care about that, but there was a few that we were talking to, and there was some opportunity to move back. They were tempting, but at the end of the day, we had a good player we all really wanted throughout the building, and I just thought it was the right thing to do that because, again, when you move back, it's unpredictable, what's going to happen. So we had pretty good numbers, but I just thought this was the right thing to do.
Giants call you? Sorry, Giants call you?
A few teams called us.
With a guy that has the kind of straight line speed Matthew does, what do you look for to know that that's important, but the fluidity to really be able to run the entire route tree, to be a presence on all levels? What do you look for to know it's not just sprint?
Yeah, sure. I think and that kind of goes back to one of the other questions as far as what they were doing at Texas as compared to what they were doing at Houston. I think that was helpful for him. He was asked to do maybe a little bit more there. But yeah, I mean, he ran all the routes this season that we needed to see, and certainly when we go through the combine and the pro days and things like that, I mean, they put those guys through pretty much everything. So if you have anything you're worried about coming out of the season that he may, not do well, you have an opportunity to see that. And but he's a premier athlete. He's going to be able to do everything we ask. And so really it's just going to be a matter of how quickly he can get up to speed and get comfortable with the offense and the players around him.
Back to the height, what is the Mendoza line you look for a guy that can line up on the boundary?
I think, I don't know if it would probably be right at that 5'11" mark, but I will say that there are guys that have played out there that have been under that height, but they usually have to have some kind of special trait, and speed is one of them, I mean, you have to be able to stretch the field. So I don't look at this, when you meet him and stuff, like, he's put together pretty well, so I don't look at him as a small guy. I don't look at him like a guy that you could only play inside. He can play inside, there's no doubt about it, but he's going to be versatile enough to do whatever we ask him to do. So.
What do you like about how your board sets up going into tomorrow now?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I think, right now it looks pretty good. You never know when the runs are going to go, and all of a sudden it won't, but it looks pretty good. We got some really good players up that we're excited to get to tomorrow and see if we can add some players. It was you never know how these things are going to fall in the first round, and this one, this one felt pretty good for us the way we looked at it.
Brian, you talked about the versatility and him being able to play inside and out. You've got some guys here, Jennings, Nelson, Driver, that have done that as well.
Yep.
Is that something you guys value? Maybe you were talking about special traits. Is that something that sets a receiver apart as opposed to somebody who's more set to just play in one of those spots?
Right. I mean, versatility is always great. I think, the way, I will say, with the way Matt and his staff are able to kind of be creative and use these guys, that gives me a lot of flexibility with what I'm looking at, too. Like, they do such a good job of scheming some of these guys and using them to their best ability. It does make it easier for me, so we don't feel like we have to do this or we have to do that Matt and his staff will find a way to make these guys productive and fit them into what they're trying to do. So, again, we obviously spend a lot of time talking about these things and how it'll affect our football team. And all those guys on the offensive staff, I think, are pretty fired up right now.
Brian, he talked about playing against NFL caliber DBs in the SEC.
Yeah.
How much does that aid in your evaluation when he's from a major conference? Because you've had others that aren't playing out of the SEC. How does that help?
Yeah, it's not everything, but it is. I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, I think it's a big deal for their development. Certainly, I think obviously when you're going against NFL type players every day in practice, which he was, one got drafted in the first round tonight. That's different than maybe a guy who might see an NFL guy once in 11 or 12 games during the season. You know what I mean? So to me, a lot of that is, with some of these bigger school guys, it's the every single day I better show up and perform because there's a 5-star behind me that's ready to take my job if I slip up. So the fact that he made that choice to move up, again, it's much more normal than it ever has been in the world right now we're living in in college football. But he made the choice to go chase it, and then did what he did. I think it says a lot about him.
Your thoughts on his return abilities?
Yeah, no, dynamic. You know, he can be dynamic. We'll see. You know, I know. You know, not only our offensive staff, but I think our special team staff was pretty fired up too. You know, so we'll see. I think certainly kickoffs will be something an easy transition for him, and I think he can do some punts as well. So we'll see. But yeah, he's you know when you take a guy in the first round, that's not the first thing I'm thinking about. But at the same time, I do think he'll help us there.
There were a couple corners and 2 or 3 undersized rushers still on the board too. What made this guy the better bang for the buck?
Yeah, no, there was a bunch of good players on the board. We could have gone a number of ways. We just kind of felt this was the best thing for our football team. And like I said, I think the guy mattered. You know, I mean, certainly the players, you know, first and foremost, but the person matters as well. Who we're bringing in this locker room, and this guy's a fit.
You kind of touched on it a little bit earlier with Mark, but seeing him make that pick and obviously the reaction that he got from the crowd being in Green Bay, how special was that? You know,
yeah, it was pretty neat in the room. I can't imagine what it was like out there. But you know, it was kind of one of those things where you're involved in getting this done. And then there's still things going on, and then all of a sudden you kind of look up and Mike in our room turns the volume up so we can kind of watch it. And yeah, it was just one of those really special moments for our staff. We had a bunch of people in there, and Mark means so much to this organization and so much to each and every one of us to kind of see that moment unfold like it was pretty cool. Yeah.
When you're evaluating a receiver with a young quarterback already in place, you know who that guy is. Are you just evaluating the receiver, or are you thinking in what ways this guy might fit with your quarterback and that chemistry going forward?
I think a little bit of both, but certainly, I mean, whenever you're adding a player, particularly a skilled player on offense, like how does he fit in with your team? You know what I mean? And where's he going to make a short-term impact, and where would he be long-term impact? And so yeah, I think that's part of it.
In what ways do you think that Matthew might be able to aid and bring out the best in Jordan?
Well, certainly he's going to be a speed threat right away, right? He's one of those guys that from covering him and from a man perspective is going to be extremely tough on teams. So when we get to some of those third down things where people are trying to mug us up and we need somebody to get open fast, he can do that. And then I think for me, and this goes back to, just this is, I can hear Ted in my head, but you got to catch it. And he has such good hands, you know what I mean? And I think, for me, that was a big part of it too.
You've always told us you can't fall in love with a guy, but sometimes it happens, right, Ted, with Clay, for example. You saw him at the Combine, you went to his pro day, you brought him in for a visit. When did you really start to like Matthew? And also, he said he wanted to get a workout in tonight. Is that okay? You gonna let him in?
Technically, I don't think he's not allowed to come in tonight. I don't know what the schedule is for him getting in here, but I think to your point, you can't fall in love with players. You have to be kind of a little bit more, less emotional about it as you go through it. But I think early on from the tape. When we get in February together as a group, our scouts really, really liked him coming out of the fall. So we had good grades on him. So we knew he was going to be. You knew he was going to be a guy we're going to spend a lot of time on. And then when you watched him in February, it was, he just was a really good player. So then it was a matter of we can't ever skip any of the steps along the way. So so I think every time we had an opportunity to be around him, whether it was on his campus, the Combine, we brought him in here. He just kind of checked the boxes, you know what I mean? And a lot of guys did. We had, there was other guys in this draft that did as well. But he just, he felt like he was going to be a really good fit.
Brian, I just asked Matthew tonight, how ironic is it that you come here for a visit 2 weeks ago, and then yesterday you're coming on the talk show and you run into the GM and you shake hands, and he said, my visit here was remarkable, and he said right there when he was with you, it's like, come get me. When he was sitting on the board at night, did that go through your mind? Like,
no, but I don't do a lot of that stuff. Those kind of shows. And then when I did it, and when I was there, he wasn't there. And so when I got up and I was leaving, I saw him, and I walked. Obviously he had been here already, and we had talked, so we knew each other. And so I went over there and we started talking, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be all over something, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it was or wasn't, but I did think that at the time. I didn't think about it during the draft tonight at all. But again, I think it was a really good night for the Packers. I'm really eager to get back at it tomorrow and see how this thing falls tomorrow and see if we can do some good. So, but I think you guys are going to really like him as you get to know him.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Well, obviously that went pretty long, but we're at the stage now where we need to bathe in it. You know what I mean? I want to soak it all up. What a cool thing to hear. Really excited to hear it. Again, we don't need to, we can get to the part about nitpicking things later. Right now, I want to enjoy this. I want to understand what they see, right? I mean, it's real easy to go find a stat and be like, oh, look, this is bad. Let's find out from the guys that have been grinding this guy's tape. And I love hearing from them because they, you know what I mean? Like the way, just the depth, the fact that he doesn't need to go back to his notes and be like, what did we say about him again? He just, off the top of his head, he can just riff about Matthew Golden. Like, we watched him from here to here. He remembers, like, oh, he went from here to here, and he struggled those first few games, and then his production picked up, and just all the detail. These guys grind it so freaking hard. And I know they get it wrong a lot. A lot of these guys get it wrong, but it's not for lack of trying, man. They know these guys inside and out, and I just freaking... I love hearing it. I love just, again, the guys in the scouts were all over it, and they're trying to push it on Gudic. They come in February, like he's talking about, and they already know. They already got it in their head. This guy he's legit. And that's when, Gutekunst and John Eric Sullivan and all those guys, they start kind of, obviously not like they've done nothing, but they start kind of grinding on it, and it's just awesome. And hearing about the hands, like we talked about hands, he doesn't have bad hands. There's nothing wrong with his hands, but there is more to it than drop numbers. To put it bluntly, not only because there's some things that are kind of fluky and whatnot, but there's also just the way that you catch the hand. Like he talked, or catch the ball, the way that he talks about like tracking the ball over your shoulder. And you can go watch the thing I put on YouTube. I'm pretty sure there's a couple in there. I mean, he's got some of that body control stuff, that people are posting the highlights of it and whatnot. He's got a little bit of that. And a lot of that is just, it's smooth. We talk about Christian. I don't mean to pick on him, but it's not smooth with Christian. You can tell he's concentrating. He's got to work pretty hard to be like, all right, yeah, catch it. Some of these guys, though, it's just smooth. And I think he's one of those smooth guys. Tetaroa McMillan is smooth. Luther Burden, smooth, just boom, right in the hands. Ibuka, the first round guys. Those guys, it's easy. It's just pop, 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 right in the hands. Couple drops, it happens, but I love hearing it. I love hearing from these guys. I hope to hear from more of them. Again, if we can get John Eric, and the great thing is at the end, he's like, oh, and then we got some stuff for you guys tomorrow. It's like, oh yeah, we got the draft tomorrow. I forgot about that. So we gotta hurry this up and talk about this because we got more to do tomorrow. But why don't we take a break, because that did go kind of long. I got a ton more stuff. He's talked to the media. I want to get what I was about to say out about my just real quick off the top thoughts, which are going to be expanded over time. But let's take a real quick break. We'll be right back. All right, so just real quick, because there's been a lot of back and forth with me and Matthew Golden. When I first watched it, I just flat out said, I don't get it. I don't really see what the big deal is. Second time through, I started seeing some of the routes, and he started getting some separation at the top of the routes, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm kind of getting it. He's coming back real nice, good catches, getting that little bit of bum right here. All right, I kind of get it. Then I see he gets a 4.29, and it's like, okay, hold up. Hold up with this. Went back, and that's when I put out, and you can see it on YouTube right now. In fact, hopefully it's blowing up. I don't know, because the Packers drafted him. I just posted that all over social media. So there's quite a bit. I've referenced it several times. You go watch him against Georgia and whatnot, and that was the time when it really started to sell me about him, because my concern, and I developed more concern after the third, fourth run through, whatever. The big thing for me was, okay, you got speed down the field. I like some of the routes, like at the top of the route and whatnot. There's one major question though: can you get off the line? Because if you can't get off a press, if you can't do those things, it doesn't super matter. And that's when I started referencing the Georgia game, because he starts winning off the line, and that's huge. If you can win off the line, and you can win at the top of the route, and you can win with speed, People can piss and moan about his man stats or whatever. Fine. Again, we can talk about it, whatever. The heck was that dinging sound? That was kind of the selling point for me. Now, when it gets to the speed, I kept saying, I just don't see 4.29, and I'm confused. I never mentioned this, but I was really digging in. I really wanted to find, okay, who are the fast guys? I went over to if you go to the NFL.com, they've got the combine section, and then they've got like the combine IQ thing. And you dig through there, and I was really trying to rack my brain about speed and what are you actually looking for? And they have acceleration, and I'm like, okay, what do I want with acceleration? It's important, but I don't know what to do with it. You can do similar things with like a 10-yard split. It's kind of acceleration plus accelerate. Like when was the max acceleration? Was it later on? Was it earlier? I don't know what to do with this crap. The interesting thing that I noticed though, because I don't know exactly what to value, and whatever. I was playing around with it. With Matthew Golden, what I noticed, if you look at the 10-yard split or the miles per hour at 10 yards or 5 yards or whatever, he's not on the list. I mean, he's there, but you have to scroll. It's weird for one of the fastest guys in the entire draft to not even be like top 10 in speed over 5, 10, 15 yards. Although when you go up to 15, as you move up 15 yards, oh, there he is. Maybe he's like top 10-ish. And then as you move all the way up, there's Matthew Golden. The point being, he's a long speed guy. He's a build-up speed guy. Not to say he's slow or whatever, but he is... And I've seen it a couple times on these things where you see that sort of second gear engage at 10, 15, 20 yards. That's when you start to see him really cook past some people. And when I see speed, for example, I noticed a lot of those guys they're at the top of the speed order early. They're fast off the line. It's just immediate, just like holy crap, this dude, because it's an instant like, dude, this guy can fly. And I don't know that Golden necessarily has special off the line speed, but that build up speed is next level, right? For him to get, again, 4.29 by the time you get to 40 yards. So that's kind of what I came to with him. And I still wanted to see, and there are a couple times, I got to go back through and find out how many more games I can watch. There was one that was kind of disappointing because he got behind the defense. He got behind the safety in the corner, and he was flying. And unfortunately, the ball was underthrown. So as soon as he you start to see that max speed engage, he's got to gear down and go back and get the ball. And then it becomes an impressive thing because not only did he get behind him, but now he's got a jump ball with two other guys there, and he still comes down with it. So it's still good. But I just wanted to see it. I want to see him in max speed deep down the field just flying past these guys because I just struggled to see the 4.29. You heard me talk about it all the time. But that's kind of the conclusion I came to. He's a deep speed guy. He's more of a build-up speed guy. And, again, for everybody worried about, man coverage and press, that's literally, you heard Gutekunst say it, that's why they like him. You can say what you want about man coverage. If he's running a little curl route or something, fine, whatever. The point is, on third down, you want to try to mug up on the line. And here's the thing, we lost Christian. You know how much that hurt us. We don't have the speed to get behind these guys. So they start pressing us up on the line, start getting physical, and Romeo will get down there eventually, or somebody will. But by the time they get off of that press, by the time they get around, plus the corners have the ability to just turn and run with you. Jordan's under duress at that point. Now we're at 2.5, 2.7, 2.9. Now he's getting some pressure on his face. We need a guy that before they even get to that point, they're too scared to do it. We can't mug this guy up. We can't get in his face. He's going to fly right past me. And that's the thing we have with Christian, but we kept losing. But you get that with him, and then Christian comes back, and it's a whole other game now. Because whatever kind of speed there is out there that I like, Christian has all of it. He's got the early speed, the late speed, the deep speed, the short speed, the crossing speed. He's got all the speed. But Golden, as we know, again, based on all the testing, he's got some pretty special speed as well. We should be able to have it on the field at all times. It's not impossible that both of them get hurt, but man, I cannot wait to see him get on the field. I can't wait for him to start hitting his prime right as Christian comes back. I can't wait to see what Matt LaFleur does having both of those guys on the field, where you are stressing. So, you try playing single high or something. You better be playing too deep, and then even then, your two safeties better be covering that. I mean, what do you do? You got no safeties anywhere on the field. They're deep and off to the corners. So what, you got linebackers and corners underneath trying to cover Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed, and not to mention we have a run game. Like, you want to keep your safeties back all day with our run game smashing you in the mouth? And then again, that's the whole point. You want to have this ability, especially with Matt LaFleur, but you want to have that ability to say, everything I do feels like the wrong decision. We can't pull our safeties back with this run game. And of course, then Jaden Reed's just going to be running wild, and it's like, that frickin' guy. And then you start coming up and challenging it, and it's like, again, get Watson on the field and Golden on the field. Oh my lordy! So I'm excited, man. I think we have the possibility. There's no guarantees, but obviously the Packers would not have drafted him if they didn't believe it. We have the possibility for a legit number one receiver, which obviously opens things up. It opens things up for Jordan, which we've been talking about, and I've been saying, and I thought maybe I was going crazy. Maybe I'm just in the hype of the whole thing, whatever. I just said it. It just feels like they want a wide receiver, and you can see it. I mean, you can just feel it immediately. You're looking at it, just man, it just makes sense. The guy that can be a number one, but also has that speed that they covet, and then again, what that does for Jordan. What that does for our run game to open that back up, what that can do for Romeo, for Christian, for Jaden Reed, for Tucker Kraft, for Matt LaFleur. It's obvious, There's no guarantee it works. There's never a guarantee, but when you look at the layout, when you look at the blueprint, again, we can micromanage and massively dig into all these things and become hypercritical if we want to, but just look at what's plainly on paper in front of your face. A first-round wide receiver with elite athleticism, with all the requisite route running and hands and everything else that you need in a guy to elevate this offense. Couple things I picked up here. There's probably plenty more. We'll touch on it probably tomorrow or whenever we can. We obviously have a lot to do tomorrow. Ryan Wood, Matthew Golden on mentality he's bringing to Packers offense. Quote, I'm bringing that chip on my shoulder like I got something to prove. Matt Schneidman with a little clip here. I don't know if I have the whole video somewhere. We'll have to find it, but here's one clip of Matthew Golden speaking to the media on Jordan Love.
And I'm ready. Talented quarterback can get out the pocket and make plays. And damn sure can throw the ball. So just knowing that I'm letting him know as soon as I see him, man, you got a reliable target. You can trust me. But, trust is built over time. So going out there, like I said, and competing and gaining everyone's trust, that's where it first starts. So once I get that, I'm still going to keep working. But, they can rely on me whenever they need me.
I love it because he's cocky, he's arrogant, and he's got swag, but he's not an idiot. I hate to bring it up. Idiot's the wrong word, but to be, you could go to let's say Caleb Williams. You got this sort of swagger like I'm the dude without proving anything yet. I think Shedeur Sanders is kind of who I was referring to, but just this sort of, and again, it's a delicate balance between having that swag and saying I'm that guy, but also having the understanding and the humility to say I have to prove it. You know what I mean? I believe in myself 100,000%, and I'm going to tell you to your face, trust me. But also understand they don't know me, and they got a good thing here. Jordan's got his receivers, he's got his guys. They've been working together for a long time. They got chemistry, and it's going to be a lot of work for me to come in here and get on their page and get on their level and demonstrate that I can do it. But I'm that dude. It's funny, I just had somebody reach out and they say, who he reminds me of is Jair. I had that exact thought when he was sitting down in that video that we played, and him in the back taking the call from the Packers, the sunglasses. It reminded me when Jair got picked. He's got that same kind of like the big chain and the glasses and all that stuff. It's like, this feels like Jair a little bit. By the way, Jair followed him on social media. So, again, I think that whole thing is done. I think it's over. I don't think he's coming back. But I will say I give a lot of credit to Jair for not having this sort of bitter attitude of like unfollowing and all this kind of stuff. he is locked in. He still treats himself and the team with respect and acts like a guy that is there. You know, I'm no doubt he's going to reach out to him and all these other guys as though he's a Pack, even though he probably knows it's over. Right now, I'm a Green Bay Packer. I am a leader. This is how leaders act. This is what I'm going to do. I respect the heck out of it. I love Jair. I really do, and I hope he stays, but I'm sure it's over. Matthew Golden, this is Ryan Wood again. Matthew Golden on meeting Brian Gutekunst during his top 30 visit to the Packers before the draft. Quote, I knew once I shook his hand, something just told me they're fitting to come get me. This is what I was talking about before with the Packers, how they're playing coy, but you just feel like, they want a receiver bad. They probably wanted Ted real bad, but they kind of knew he was going to be gone and he left early. But Golden falling is awesome. But again, even Matthew Golden kind of had that. They're playing it cool. They're playing, we'll see how it goes. But he's like, I don't know, dude. I shook that guy's hand and I could tell. They were putting out all kinds of vibes that they were trying to hide, I think. Matthew Golden on what it was like walking out on the NFL draft stage in front of 100,000 Packer fans after being drafted. Quote, I've never felt anything like it. I wish I could go back out there right now. The energy the Packer fans got, which is, again, what a cool experience for him, of all Packer fans, to be able to walk out on a stage with them just the happiest you'll ever see Packer fans screaming and chanting, Go Pack, go. Because, listen, I mean, there were almost any pick the Packers have made over the last, roughly my lifetime, there would have been a lot of grumbling, which would have been a terrible thing. Everyone's like, oh, no, this pick, blah, blah, blah. On top of that, how embarrassing to have the pick walk out and to hear that kind of reaction. Oh, a couple people cheering, whatever. This couldn't have been more opposite. You pick up the phone, you're waiting in the back, you're waiting for them to call your name, you're waiting for Mark Murphy to get done with his little diatribe, and as soon as you hear your name, the place goes crazy. They freaking love you. And he's excited about it. There was a picture of him out there taking a picture with some Packer fans. So I don't know if he went out into the crowd or whatever the case may be, but he's soaking it up, and I'm so happy about the whole thing. Ryan Wood says the Packers wide receiver Matthew Golden, quote unquote, definitely knew it had been 23 years since the team had drafted a wide receiver in the first round. Quote, it definitely means a lot more. It's always been a dream of mine. To know they haven't drafted a receiver in the first round since 2002 is definitely a blessing. I got to play this real quick. This is Aaron Nagler posted this. So I don't know exactly where this is coming from, where this camera is coming from, but just listen to the crowd from here. So this is further away. This is back from the stage, but you can really hear the roar of the crowd. This is so cool.
With the 23rd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers, for the first time since 2002, draft the wide receiver, Matthew Golden.
Wow. It's the best, man. It's just absolute magic. Will Compton, Green Bay waited until the draft is in Green Bay to take a wide receiver in the first round. Can't draw it up any better. I didn't see this here. Matthew Golden went to the podium, went to the microphone and said, give me a Green Bay on 3. This is the best day ever. Official attendance, by the way, 205,000 people in Green Bay. 205,000. My goodness. I thought it was going to be like 125 on the first day. 205,000. Man. I'm not going to read that comment. I'll leave that alone. We're busy celebrating here. Guy on Twitter named Jair Locked says, Packers drafting a wide receiver with an iced out chain and metallic gold suit in the first round. I prayed for times like this. Oh, and I can't not play this.
The Bears still suck!
This is just the ultimate Green Bay Packers party. Clay Matthews comes to the front, says, "I just got off the phone with Donald Trump." Like he's got a message for everybody here. He says, "My fellow Americans, the Bears still suck." Oh, what a beautiful day. Tyler Brooks says, "Matthew Golden was my 8th overall prospect, not wide receiver, prospect. Golden is a special, special talent." I do have the full audio. It's 20 minutes. We're going to have to save that. Just trying to find some real quick little things here. We got some longer ones, but probably get it wrapped up here. Let's play this one last thing, and then we're going to go ahead and call it. Here he is on stage, speaking about some of the stuff that he's got going on, and it does. I mean, you get to hear a little bit, and we'll kind of dig in and see what we can figure out. But talking about that adversity and stuff that he went through, and the opportunities he has in front of him, very, very happy for this guy.
This crowd just welcomed you with a cheer and a hug. You got the G on your chest. Was this destiny for you tonight, Matthew Golden wearing the green and gold?
Yeah, it was all a part of the plan, man. God made me wait this long, and it was for a reason, man. I can't thank him enough.
You get to make a lot of decisions now about your life, but one of which it sounds like you want to do something really special for your family. What is that now that you get to play in the NFL?
Man, I want to get back to my grandma. You know, we lost our property a couple years ago, and, I just want to get back to my family, man. And, they did so much for me, and they put me in this position, so all I can do is get back to them.
They love you for that, and you got a whole lot of new family here tonight.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
It's just, again, I don't know the circumstances, but you could hear his voice kind of breaking up a little bit there. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sitting here talking about how magical it is for me, and getting chills and stuff. I can't imagine for him, him and his family going through some real rough times, to have this moment, to know what it means, to have 200,000 people screaming for you. Some of them are Bears fans or whatever, but we don't care. Cheering and screaming and go Pack go, and you're hugging your family, and you know what this means for your family, even though you knew it was coming. You know what this means. You know you're going to be sitting down with the Packers in a matter of weeks or maybe months at the most. You're going to be signing a piece of paper, making it official that you're a Green Bay Packer, putting a big old chunk of cash in your bank account so you can help your grandmother, you can help your parents, your siblings, whatever. Just, I mean, it's got to be too much to process, the whole thing. But anyways, it is about midnight. I think my kids are all still sitting up, probably passed out on random couches and stuff, so I got to get putting them to bed. I'm feeling great, and I hope you're feeling great. I'm excited to hear from you guys. I know it's, there weren't any prospects, I think, that were 10 out of 10 on anyone's mind, but man, like I said, when it got to that point, and I really sat back and thought about it, it's like, Golden is the guy. And the cynical part of me, the part of me that knows the Packers, like, they're not going to do it. It feels too perfect. I mean, the only thing even remotely close was Clinton Dix, where it's like, it's got to be. I mean, that's their biggest need, and that was, again, it didn't feel like this, but it was just like, oh, it's got to be. And oh, yeah, it is. That's cool. I'm sitting here thinking, man, I know they're going to take something ridiculous, but this just feels perfect. He's a number one wide receiver. He's got that speed that, I mean, since Matt LaFleur's been here, how long did he play with, Marquez Valdez-Scantling and all these different guys? We tried to make it work, and it's just like, Marquez is not the guy. And Christian's that dude, there's no question, but the guy can't stay on the field. And Matt LaFleur has been just dying for this speed. And it just feels like this is it, man. This is what we've been wanting. This is, since Devontae left, not that Devontae has speed, but just the ability to have that guy that changes things. We got a lot of guys that can change things, but it's like it's hard. It can't get moving until we have this final piece, and this is the piece. And we got more additions to make, and we got more improvements to make, and we got guys that need to take jumps, and we need peak Jordan back, and we need Rashawn back, and we need all these guys back. We need all this stuff. But this is the one, and I'm feeling good. So, all right, I got to get out of here. I'm fading fast here. It's starting to catch up with me this whole day and whatnot. So, I'm excited, and I can't wait to talk to you guys on Packernet After Dark and hear from you and all that. You all have a good one. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.